Hello and welcome back, I'm Sean, and today we're checking out a very unique all-in-one speaker system from Cambridge Audio, and I'm really excited to test them and share it with you. It's quite difficult to get your hands on one now, so let's see whether this all-in-one system is what you've been waiting for. So let's check it out. So there are a few all-in-one systems like that in the market, so let's look at what makes this particular system great. So the first thing that I love about this system is how integrated this whole thing is. It's so integrated that you just need to plug a power cord and it'll run with no problem, so you don't need to set up any speakers or subwoofers, just plug and play. And the second thing I love about this speaker is the sound quality, and I know some might compare this to a bigger audiophile speaker setup and say that the Evo One is inadequate, but to be fair, this is not marketed to compete with those system setups. Even Cambridge Audio says in their website that this is a replacement for your soundbar, so with that in mind, this speaker sounds really fantastic in my book, and we'll talk about sound quality shortly. I also love the screen that Cambridge Audio puts into their system. From the Evo 75, 150 and now the Evo One, all of them are high resolution and large. Comparing to some systems such as the Rua R410, which only has a 4-inch display, the Evo One comes with a 6.8-inch IPS TFT display, which is also high resolution at 1280 by 480. The only thing that will make it even better is if it comes with an OLED screen, but even on its own now, the screen already looks amazing. So audiophile tech here is also really good. You get a Class D amplifier here, a 14 speaker setup that ramps out 700 watts, high-res audio support up to 32 bits, 192 kHz, built-in wireless streaming capabilities such as Spotify, Tidal, Deezer, Qobuz, and you also get built-in phono stage for connecting it to your turntables that doesn't have an integrated one, and it also supports all major high-res audiophile formats. You also get support for Google Cast, Apple AirPlay, as well as Roon Ready. So for things I think could be better, first of all is the Bluetooth chip in here, and Cambridge Audio is associated with high-end audiophile gear, but the Bluetooth that you get here is only a Bluetooth 5.1 with AAC and SBC codec support. It would be nice if it's like the Evo 150 comes supported with aptX HD or maybe LDAC support, and I don't see why we need to resort to compressed codecs just because I want to use some Bluetooth convenience. So do take note of this, because if you stream Tidal on your phone to the Evo One via Bluetooth, it plays only at AAC, but if you use Tidal Connect directly to the Evo One, it plays it in FLAC, so do take note that there's a difference there and it's quite clear. Another thing I noticed some people saying is that there isn't any preamp out, which in this case I don't think it's that necessary since the Evo One is supposed to act as an all-in-one system using the built-in amp, but what I find disturbing is that it doesn't have a sub out, because I think that would be a useful addition to the system if someone wants to have a dedicated woofer to handle the low ends. And finally, the remote that you get here is also pretty cheap looking, made out of plastic. It's quite light, don't have the weight, and comparing it to the remote of the Evo 150, this is just miles behind. Plus this is not a Bluetooth remote, so you need direct line of sight to control, say, the volume, or you want to skip tracks. And since the Evo One is also capable as a multi-room speaker, having a Bluetooth remote makes sense, but I guess you can still run it using the Stream Magic app. And with that said, this beautiful all-in-one speaker comes in at a pretty good price of $1,499 US, or around 7,899 Malaysian ringgit, and comparing it to its closest competitor, the name Muso 2 or the Rua R410, the Evo One is priced in a very similar and more affordable ballpark. If you find value in what you hear and like what you see so far, do subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell so the YouTube algorithm can pick this up, and if you want to buy this speaker, do check out my links below. So let's talk about the sound signature of this speaker, and this is an all-in-one speaker, meaning you don't have to be concerned about connecting it to amps, setting up speakers for it. Everything here is built in, and if you don't have analog peripherals to connect to it, technically you only need the power plug and you are ready to go. So sound-wise, this is definitely not going to compete with your dedicated player with separated speaker system and subwoofers, but for an all-in-one speaker system and the expectations set straight, this is actually quite a fantastic sounding system. Bass-wise, you're not getting thundering or rumbling sub bass here, definitely, because you don't have a subwoofer, but you'll be surprised at how high quality the bass quality is with this speaker. I mainly love to test my sub bass with Doing It Right by Daft Punk, and they have 4 main bass sequences here, and most speakers fail at these bass sequences, so especially the third one. So with the Evo One, you hear all 4 bass sequences with no problems. It could be deeper, of course, but the fact that it can generate it and sound deep enough to enjoy in an all-in-one system is is really impressive. And mind you, this is tested at a comfortable volume of only 20%. The mid bass here sounds good as well, and they sound very similar to how Audiophile IEM sound like, where the bass notes is audible and clear, but it could hit deeper and harder. So at its base normal EQ, mid vocals has very present soundstage, right smack in the middle of the frequency plane, and it's not recessed or muffled. There is also an EQ settings to boost the vocals, and this will significantly bring the vocal forward, but I'm personally not a fan of that sort of sound signature. So highs here is bright and clear, where you definitely hear the metallic signature from the tweeters, and the beauty of an all-in-one speaker is that you get separated and dedicated drivers for all of the frequency range, and with the Evo One you can hear the clear separations between the high notes as well as the bass and the vocals. Even in louder volumes, there isn't any cracking, distortion or muffling. Very satisfying. Overall, I will classify this as a very dynamic, high-end sound signature without feeling underwhelming, especially with the bass department.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways. And on we'll go. Finding life along the way, melodies we haven't played.
So let's talk about the design of the Evo One, and comparing it to the Evo 150, these devices have very similar design language with lots of wood panels around, and the main design piece here with the Evo One is that solid wood panel at the top of the speaker, and at the left corner is a small Cambridge audio badge that adds a level of class to the whole speaker unit. And at the front of the speaker is a beautiful 6.8-inch IPS TFT display with a resolution of 1280 by 480, and here you get to display your beautiful album art and even the VU meter. Below the screen is also 9 buttons for you to control the screen, and this is where the knob on the Evo 150 made more sense to the interface. Buttons does work well too, but the knobs is just better and more satisfying, especially when you're selecting the source or changing the volume. So similar to the Evo 150, the screen here is also non-touch screen, and as I've discussed in that video, I wouldn't want to be touching the screen and scuff it up. I'll mainly use the remote control or use the app. So all around the speaker is also a mesh speaker grille that is beautiful and acoustically transparent, so it doesn't hinder any audio performance. And all around the speaker are also 14 drivers in total, producing 700 watts at 4 ohms, and each driver generates roughly about 50 watts. So there are 4 1-inch silk dome tweeters, 4 2.25-inch aluminum cone mid-range drivers, as well as 6 2.75-inch long throw woofers, and you can also slowly slide open the mesh to access and clean inside the drivers, which is a very thoughtful design. And you can access all of your inputs and ports at the back of the speaker, and there is also a great feature here where your fonts on the ports at the back of the speaker are both oriented right way up and upside down, so when you're accessing and looking over, you can still see them right side up. And behind you will get your power port, a service port which you're not supposed to be plugging anything in here, a USB-A port for medias, HDMI port with eARC, an Ethernet port for direct internet access, a Toslink optical cable in, a phono stage port for your turntables, which also links to the grounding port for you to hook up, and finally a line-in level aux in to connect any analog sources such as your CD players, your tuners or turntable that already comes with a phono stage that doesn't need to go through the phono ports. And finally, the stand at the bottom is also uniquely designed and very similar to the Evo series and has that, tapered V design. You're not lacking in terms of volume with the Evo One, and with its 700 watts power driven at 4 ohms, I get to a comfortable listening volume in my room sitting about 5 feet away from the device at only 20 to 25% volume. Moving upwards of around 40% volume is already sufficient enough to cover an entire floor around 800 square feet. At around 50 to 60% volume, it's loud enough to cover 2 floors with no problems. And the unique thing about this speaker arrangement is when you play it at 40% volume, although it's loud, but sitting in front of it doesn't feel annoying or obnoxious, but when you move away further from it, the volume kind of travels together with you and it reaches to the far end of the houses with no problems. But of course, when you play it above, let's say 50-60%, it's too loud to be sitting in front of it. So if you use other Cambridge audio products, you'll find that the Evo One also have a very similar setup. At the homepage is where you're going to see your new Evo One in all its glory, and at the bottom you can switch your connected device if you have other Cambridge audio devices. So below that you also get a few main controls. Under settings, this is where you're going to get access to all your key settings, including your volume limit and what Cambridge audio always have, which is their early update features, so you can try out new features if you have it released for your device. So below that you also get settings for your network, Google Cast connection, and your device information. Under room settings, this is where Cambridge Audio sets itself apart from others in the market with a built-in placement and room compensation control, so you can control both how far away your speakers are from the wall behind it, and it will modify the audio accordingly. And under room compensation, you can adjust for where you place your audio, whether it's in a wide open space or a smaller cozy nook. Under EQ settings, you're going to get 6 different presets to choose from, but for whichever you choose, you can still drag the 7-bar EQs above to further customize it. And the last button puts the speaker into standby. And below that, you also get shortcuts to your recent internet radio station, which is super convenient to just press it and access your favorite station. And below that are all of your different source shortcuts that you can adjust and switch easily simply by clicking on it. For a few of the streaming apps such as Tidal, Spotify, it's integrated and you can stream and select music directly in the app itself. So under the radio tab, this also allows you to follow all your favorite internet radio stations around the world, and you also get access to your local stations, so this is a great device to have sitting in your living room and have it playing your favorite stations in the morning. So we're going to talk about latency of the Evo One. However, most of the use case here for an all-in-one system is to use Bluetooth for audio playback. Still, since the Evo One is also marketed as a soundbar, and I understand that some users like to connect their TVs to their soundbar itself for a cleaner wireless setup, so the verdict here is that there will be some latency when watching movies and videos, since the Evo One only runs a Bluetooth 5.1. And when watching movies, you do notice quite a bit of delay with the audio and video, so not the most ideal. So ideally, if you're using it as a soundbar, you definitely need to plug it in, either via the HDMI eARC or using the Toslink optical cable in. So for an all-in-one system, especially one to replace a soundbar, I see a lot of value in this system, and its price isn't that expensive. If you look at what Bose or Sonos is actually charging for their soundbar, you start to see that the Evo One, that comes with its own amp, a screen, host of streaming features, and also HDMI eARC support, isn't really that expensive at all. Coupled with all the fantastic audiophile grade sound signature, you really can't ask for more. So if you want to check out a very cool player also from Cambridge Audio, I think the Evo 150 is definitely something you need to check out right over here, and I'll see you over at that video.